Hello and welcome to the rig breakdown series, where we have an in-depth look at some of the rigs that I've made to hopefully help you guys on your way whilst rigging or sorting things out. Again, this is not a final rig, it's in no way perfect, but it hopefully shows you some of the approaches that I've used to get to the final result. And again, if you there are different techniques available. If you want to use any of those, obviously be free to do so. This is just one of the approaches. There's always multiple approaches that lead to the same result or a slightly better result even. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt, but this is just my approach, and I hope it helps you. So if you look at the whole system, we have a lot of stuff in white here. Those are the static parts. It is obviously the same left and right, and I'll just focus on the left side here, the part with the colors. The other side is the same. Feel free to copy that over and yeah, complete the rig if you want. But just for today, we'll be looking at the colored parts on the left side. So let's go ahead and hide the static parts. And you can see we've got a couple of categories that we'll be working our way through today. And we'll start with the wishbone. There's a second part to it. We've got the spring, that's the purple area here. The steering obviously is something that we'll look at. That's these areas here, these parts here. And last but not least, the axle, which has a universal joint in there. So let's hide the rest and focus on the wishbone setup that we have here. Let's show some of the shapes and helpers that we've used. Yeah, so this is it. If we look at it, one thing to note right off the bat is that if you see those wishbone setups, they are often not aligned with each other. Meaning that if we go to the left view and we look here, fully aligned, but this one is slightly offset. So if you want to rotate them with a simple bone setup, it wouldn't work. Or I mean, it would work, but it's not super precise. It would wobble a little bit. Again, this might be okay for you, but I just wanted to go with a really precise setup that works in all situations. So that's why I've chosen this this approach. Also, you can see that the yeah, they're offset from each other a little bit. They're not straight. You can see this bone here is angled a little bit, so they're not actually 100% aligned with each other. So that yeah, that helps the complexity, I would say. So how did we do it? We have, let's hide the geometry. We've got one bone here. This is the control object that's just linked. This one is just linked to this dummy here, and that just follows along. So that's a simple rotation on this axis. And then the top part is, let's unhide the geometry. The top part is also rotating on this local axis, but this has a look at target, as you can see. Rotation, look at constraint, sorry, not a target. And it's looking at the bones here. Now these bones are used because of the angled path here, but also because of the slight difference between the angle of these wishbone parts, which is the reason why I've drawn this circle. And this circle obviously aligns with the center point of the top wishbone. So if we look at that rotating, you can see that it follows that arc perfectly. And these are mounted within the chassis, so they wouldn't move, they would only rotate along their local axis. And the reason I went with the path constraint is because, yeah, bones sometimes wobble a little bit and it's not super precise, like I said. So if you just draw the path, you can see I've smuggled a little bit here with the angle, but that's all good. The bone doesn't really get that far, so it's never on that point unless you really skew it. You can see here. But yeah, the suspension would never go this deep. You can see that it kind of breaks the rig. But if it stays along on this this axis or this path, it's fine, and it moves perfectly along each local axis. And that's very important to yeah, to not have that wobble in there, which you would otherwise have. So a fairly straightforward setup. One bone attached at the bottom, then a second set attached to the spline here, and if you move it along, then it's just the top one just follows that path and the bottom one just rotates on its local axis. That's it. And then there's part 2, which is this one here. Now this is a sort of stabilizer rod which works by twisting it, and that's why I've cut it into separate parts. This used to be, let me unhide the static. This is all one part normally. And it's probably a torsion bar of some kind, but yeah, since we we only rig the left side. Let's just focus on this. Let's hide the static parts, but we don't really have torsion. So I've just, for practical reasons, I've just cut it up here, and we're only focusing on the red areas here. Let's hide the first part here. So this moves up and down. Actually, let's show that because we need this control object. So how did I do this one? Same setup. Basically, you have the arc here, which is the arc that this rod will move through when it rotates, and the rotation that it'll do is actually this one. It's all linked to each other, of course. Sorry. Let's just animate that just for ease of use. Up. There we go. So now that's animated, and we can hide this part. So again, you have this setup here. Let's hide the geometry, and you have a set of bones following along a path. Now this path is the center point of the rod here, and the rod itself rotates over the center point of this yellow one, which is obviously the same as this one. So that is this, it's all aligned here in space. That is this point here. So this is the rotational point, and this circle here describes what the arc would be of the red areas following this path. I hope that makes sense. So how we've done it, we have this one linked to the Wishbone part 1. That is this one here. So that's just linked to the pink or purple bone, however you want to call it. So that gets pushed upwards and it follows along this path. And this one is just a look at target, looking at the bone, I believe. Yeah, there you go. So it's looking at the bone. And that just describes a rotation along its local y-axis. So that whole thing here, the whole red part, the top part at least, is linked to this look at target. So if that goes up and down, that moves along, and the rest is linked obviously to this bottom bone, so that you can see that it rotates slightly here based on the local axis. Not sure if that shows properly. Yeah, so you can see the ball joint doing its work here, and you've got a second ball joint here at the bottom. If we unhide this, it's kind of hidden here within the wishbone, but yeah, there is a ball joint at the bottom there. So that's the wishbone setup. It looks rather complex, but it is fairly straightforward. It's two spline IK paths, spline IK setups, and there you have your main suspension setup. Now, along with that, obviously, is the suspension springs. Let's hide these two. Simple setup. Dummies attached, this one attached to the static parts, this one attached to the bottom wishbone. Two look at constraints looking at each other, and the spring has the skinning setup with 2 points, these two here, that are attached to the look at constraints, as described in the tutorial on the basic of rigging series that I have on my channel. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time here. This is just a simple setup for the springs. Then the steering part, again, we're using spline IK here. I have linked it to this this part that you can move around. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, you might as well rotate this point here. It's the same. But we're using the same spline IK, and the reason why we do this, if we unhide the wishbone setup, is again because these things are not straight. They're not centered. You can see the whole thing angled here. But if this moves up, then the steering obviously needs to follow. So if this goes up, we've animated that. So there we go. This arm of the steering needs to follow, and the suspension is leading and the steering follows. It's not vice versa. It wouldn't work. Yeah. So if the suspension goes up, the steering just follows that, and you can see that the path, these points, are linked to the height difference or to the animation of the wishbone, so that just moves up and down along with it. Let's hide this. So for looking at this, the setup is the same. You've got your same spline IK, you've got your bones that follow along the path, and if we are actually doing some steering actions, let's animate that as well. Let's say from 30 to 50-ish. Rotate this one. There you go. It's a bit extreme, but it'll work. So even though the height difference is now has changed, it still works. And you can see that this one slides along the ball joint here. And the same thing on the bottom side. If we show it from the other side here, you have another ball joint here. Sorry, that was the one we're looking at. You've got another one here. So these are just simple bones, simple spline IK setup. The trick is to, again, draw that arc, that this part, again, attached to this ball joint and the one here in the bottom, that is rotating around. So again, that's not a vertical setup, it's slightly angled. So what you want to do is your path that this rotates around should have the same alignment. It's not a horizontal one, it has a slight alignment. So when it rotates, it follows this path perfectly. And that's what you want to repeat in the setup pretty much everywhere. So even though it's angled, even though it's all rotated a little bit, if you have this setup done, then you cannot go wrong because the path is always the same. It always rotates around these 2 points. So yeah, straightforward setup. This one just rotates along with it. Obviously, this, yeah, not a really complex one. Just like that. Yeah, let's move to the final parts. The axle. The axle is basically a universal joint. You've got the leading one here. That's your wheel that you want to animate. You can see I've animated it. And yeah, following the tutorials that you can find on the basic rigging series that I have on my channel, you can easily animate this so that it still works even though yeah, these axes move. It's a double universal joint in principle. So if you use this one, then you have this part would be your normal, your middle part that you would link with look at targets, etc. This will be your end result, but again, your end result here is your input for the second one. This would be your middle part, and then this would be your output part. So there's a bunch of dummies involved with it, but it's a fairly simple, straightforward setup that gives you the rotation of the axis. Now what I usually do, I give these, the parts that I animate, I give them a red color, opposed to the green, just so that I can easily identify them. And what I normally also do is I give the look at ones an orange color, just so that I can easily identify which ones have look at targets, like for instance here on the springs. So yeah, in short, there is your Wishbone suspension setup. Again, it's not perfect, it does work, but it's not a full car setup. It was for me mostly about how do I stack these with hierarchies and how do I make it so that technically it works perfectly. No wobble, no offset or anything. But yeah, if you're doing a full car setup, then it might be a little bit too much. Or if you want to go fully in depth, then this may work as well. So there you go. There you have it. Play around with it. Have a look at it. And if you have questions, I would love to hear it in the comments. Ciao!